I don't remember this ever happening in my life, and it may have happened and it's blurred out, but certainly not in the last 2 decades. He came to me and I thought he was just coming to give me a hug goodnight. And he asked permission to give me a kiss. And I was like, oh, like blink, blink. Yeah. And I don't remember the kiss. I remember the consent. I don't remember the kiss, which is the funny part.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 406. We're Finn and Emma, and today we are so excited to be able to share the love story between Courtney and Derek. If you missed it, they each told their individual stories in episodes the past 2 weeks, episode 404 and 405. We encourage you to listen to those, but they're not required before listening to this episode. Today, they share a beautiful journey of the two of them coming together.
Yeah, normally people share like a high level of their story, and then we talk about the details and we ask lots of questions. Not today.
Nope.
Not today.
And that's okay, because this is beautiful.
This is amazing. This is such a fun conversation. So, we'll say the format of today is Courtney and Derek taking us through roughly the last year and a half or so of their relationship and coming together. And what's really neat about it is it's sort of done in a he said, she said vibe or style where one of them will share what was going on for them during, part of their story. And then the other one will be like, well, here's what was going on for me. And so
it's pretty great.
It's actually really amazing to be able to go through their story in such detail and hear what was actually going on for each of them along the way. So a huge amount of gratitude to the both of them for coming on and for sharing and for telling their story. It's a beautiful story and we're really excited to share it. We got 3 more things to say about this.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. One is a trigger warning that happens at about an hour and 7 minutes in, where Derek talks about some childhood abuse. He caveats this in the episode, so you will hear him say trigger warning. So you don't have to be tracking this, but we just did want you to know that it was coming.
So you can skip ahead if you don't want to listen to that part.
Yep. The second one is a trigger warning suggested by Courtney because of how mushy and sappy these two are. Again, this was her suggestion, not ours. But it is, that's why we call it Derek and Courtney a love story. It could be on the Hallmark Channel.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. So the only other thing we wanted to mention is early on in the interview, you will hear a couple of times there's a dog collar that gets jingled. I wasn't able to take it out because it happened at a very inopportune time, but I just wanted to say it does not happen more than a couple of times towards the beginning. So it's not like all episode you have to be listening to this. So just wanted to call that out because, that's the type of thing I do.
And with that, for anyone who's a premium subscriber, we're going to jump into the interview with Courtney and Derek. And for anyone else, we're going to go through a couple of announcements. First up, if you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front. But don't worry, we still share important dates of upcoming events in the outro. To sign up for the premium subscription, go over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, scroll down on the homepage, and you can sign up for only $4 a month.
Next up, we want to tell you all about our community. As we tell you every single week, we host a community full of over 300 people socializing and supporting one another all day, every day.
Courtney and Derek talk about it in this episode because they're members.
Yeah, I was going to say people like Courtney and Derek are members of the community. So please check it out. We'd love to have you come join us. We host monthly community support Zoom calls. We also host monthly workshops that we started hosting at the beginning of this year. If you would like to learn what the different topics are, there is a page on our website under the community tab that says workshops. If you click there, you can learn about all of the different workshops that we've done in the past and the ones coming up. So awesome thing is, if you missed one in the past, you can go and watch the recording once you're part of our community, and you get to be part of all of the upcoming ones.
Our next one is coming up in early September.
Yep, September 10th, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Yes, so go check that out. The other thing we want to tell you is not only do we do virtual stuff, we get everybody together in real life. Well, you'll hear about that today.
Yes.
Yeah, today is a great example of what happens when people come together in real life.
Our next in-person community retreat is going to be October 3rd to the 5th, 2025, in the San Francisco Bay Area. You can sign up to join us and buy your tickets now. We'd love to have you come join us. So more information over on the community tab of our website.
Yeah, there is a PDF on there that is called the program guide. You can find links towards the bottom.
We're going to be having a pool party.
We're going to have a pool party. We're going to have a great time. So please check it out. We'd love to have you come join us. And the last thing we want to tell you about is our favorite way to get tested for STIs.
It is stdcheck.com. You hear us talking about this every week as well.
At least we're consistent.
Yes. It is the service that Finn and I use. We've been using it for years. It is simple and discreet and just really a great service to use to know your sexual health status. You can use the links on the resources tab of our website, saving you $10 and making a 10-panel test only $129. And you support the show in the meantime. Thank you in advance for using those links, and thank you to everyone who has used them in the past.
Yes, you are the reason this show exists every single week. Well,
part of the reason.
Part of the reason. You are one of the big reasons we're able to do this for free every week. So thank you for using those links. And the last thing we wanted to tell you, I tricked you earlier when I said it was the last thing, is that we would love to hear from you. Please send us an email, send us a voicemail if you have any feedback or comments or questions for us, or better yet, you want to come on the podcast to share your love story. We want to tell it.
Yes.
Your love story or your own personal story or whatever version of your story you want to tell out to the world to help others learn and know that they are not alone in navigating this wild world of relationships.
You can reach out to us over on the Contact Us page of our website.
That's the place to do it.
And with that, let's go and listen to Courtney and Derek.
Good morning, Derek and Courtney. Welcome to the podcast. Again, you've both been here before, so you're familiar with the setup. So good morning. We're excited to have you here and to hear your story together. So welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And we thought, since we had you on both the last 2 weeks, but maybe everybody didn't go listen, so maybe we give you roughly 1 minute exactly timed to give a 1 minute overview of each of your stories, and it can be more than 1 minute. But then we'll get people caught up, and then we'll take it into your relationship, which is where we kind of left off with both of your interviews over the last few weeks.
Sounds good. You want to go first?
No, I want you to go first.
Okay. Well, I am older than you. So I'm Derek. I'm a 55-year-old cishet male, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina right now. High-level overview. Let's see. Discovered non-monogamy in college. Had some adventures and misadventures with that. It kind of ended poorly due to, I don't know, a lack of support, maybe certainly some bad decisions, some of them squarely on my part. And I got scared back into monogamy for a while. After I was married in 2015, the following year, my wife and I decided to open up. We had some other relationships, and that went comparatively swimmingly. That was great. We had some success. We had some great communication and some good experiences, not devoid of difficulty for sure, but instead of ending in disaster, we learned from them, and we talked about them, and we grew, and we had some really good experiences. After that, we closed up to have a kid, which we did. And while we were in lockdown, she came out to me as lesbian, and she was realizing this, and we had a contentious year navigating that and figuring that out while still being new parents, while still being in lockdown. And that was definitely relationshiping on some hard mode there.
Yeah.
And
I think relationshiping through the pandemic was hard mode for everybody, but this is a new level.
And after a year or so, we were able to come together and realize that we didn't want to throw away the parts of our relationship that worked because this part didn't anymore. So long story short, we decided to still share a house together while we were co-parenting, because one thing we were clear on was that we really did love that we were co-parents. We just saw eye to eye on a lot of things. I think she's a fantastic mom. She has similar opinions of me. So we got a house in Asheville, big enough so that we each have our own space. And we've been doing that for the last 3 years. And we've been supportive of each other, living in our independent lives.
Love it. That's amazing. And
That was a really great
that
summary.
was perfect. Yeah. The perfect Cliff Notes. And it left everybody wanting more. So go back and listen to 2 weeks ago to get the full story. And Courtney, go for it.
Okay. So I am a cis female, although I identify as pansexual. I am married to my co-parent now of 16 years married. We dabbled in swinging and non-monogamy early on in our marriage, closed back up again because we were not mentally prepared for any of that, and found that the fantasy of it was far more fun than the functionality of it. So we closed back up and essentially had a monogamous relationship for over a decade. And so
You looked at me while I was talking.
I know, but I'm more easily distracted than you are. Okay, so anyway.
For the listeners, we have the hand wall built between the two.
I get sucked in. Okay, so anyway, so yes, I have a daughter from a previous marriage, and if you go back and listen to my episode from last week, you'll learn there was more than one previous marriage. But my current spouse has been around her entire life, and we also have a child together who is now 9. We reopened in an ethically non-monogamous way about 3 years ago now. And it did not go swimmingly. I didn't have a wonderful experience the way that Derek did, apparently. My experience was incredibly difficult for both of us. But we've soldiered through it. We were living in Southwest Florida the entire time of our relationship. And last year, it's a year ago tomorrow, as we're recording this, actually. A year ago tomorrow, we moved to Asheville. We had been wanting to move to the mountains anyway. And then Derek gave me an excuse to be in this specific area of the mountains. Yeah, I guess we'll get more into the way Derek and I met and all that good stuff momentarily.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Well, so you've caught us up on the history, and little over a year ago, you two met, and maybe we pick up at the meeting point of you two coming together, how you met, and how you've been building your relationship for the last
Easy peasy, right?
Peasy.
Sure. We can do
1
this
minute.
in under 5 minutes.
Yeah, you got 1 minute. This is the 9-minute podcast.
That's what he gave me. Like, really? You can? He knows better. I'm not gonna do that. So
I challenge you to get through the part before we actually met in under 5 minutes.
I did that in an hour last week.
I rest my case.
And I really didn't even get through all of it. So anyway.
Yeah, we already set Courtney up for a part 2, Derek.
Sorry, that.
Yeah, well, I it's genetic. If you pop a quarter in me, I will talk all day. Anyway.
Excellent. It's great for podcasting.
It is.
We are very grateful.
It's super helpful.
You do not have to slowly tease information out of me. I'll just dump. So I can start with my side of the story, maybe.
Sure.
Okay. And I found your podcast early on when my husband and I opened up. When I was looking for resources, I had been. We didn't even touch on this last week, and maybe this will be for part 2. But I had some experience in 12-step programs. And I knew from that experience that community and hearing other people's stories is incredibly powerful to help you not feel like you're the only person in the universe going through whatever it is you're going through. So I found the podcast in that quest for community without realizing you actually had literally a community. So I learned a lot from listening to those stories, and the stories that I heard were so, there were some common threads, but they were so different also, which was really great. And one of the things I learned was about your community. So I joined the online community, again, looking for support, and joined the women's group, etc. On the community, there was there still is, I'm sure, I'm just not participating in it, an NSFW channel. And one person in particular in the community was a consistent catalyst there. She would always post something, and she would have these really beautiful, like very stunning pictures that simultaneously made me feel emboldened and not good enough. So I decided one day I was feeling bold for whatever reason, who knows why. And she had put up a post about being in your happy place. And I had taken a picture of myself earlier that year from behind, peering out over a ledge or over a railing, looking at the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I was completely naked. And the picture was from behind. And I had to edit the picture just a little bit so it wasn't like too NSFW, just sort of like a hint. So there was just a hint of NSFW, and you really couldn't see anything other than the fact that I was naked. And you couldn't even see my face. So I thought that was fairly safe and tasteful enough. And I put that up. And I got some nice positive feedback on it, which was good. And this guy saw this picture and sent me a comment about it. And it was very subtle and very like, hey, if you're ever in Asheville, I'd love to take you for a cup of coffee, which was extremely subtle compared to the kinds of responses that I would have gotten in a dating app with a picture like that. And that was part of what I was going through at the time also, was the dating app jungle of having so many unsolicited dick pics. So he commented on that, and we started a conversation. And this was in, I want to say, late October, early November of 2022. We just kept having a conversation and texting. And eventually, I can't remember at what point we exchanged phone numbers because it was simpler than going through the website. So
it was less than a month.
It was probably less than a week, if I know me. So
You were quite forward.
I am like, is this, again, see last week's episode for more information. We exchanged numbers and we started having text conversation. And then I sent a voice memo to him just so he could hear my voice. We still hadn't had like a phone call. I just sent a little voice memo saying, here's my voice, whatever. And he sent me back one also. And I specifically remember where I was because I drove a lot for work. I still drive a lot for work, but I was on a bridge going over a river in Florida, and I heard his voice for the first time. And I was like, ooh, he has a sexy voice. And he still laughs every time I say that. He's like, I'm not trying. It doesn't matter if you're trying or not. I find your voice sexy. So we got on a phone call, I think maybe if I don't know if it was the same day or the next day, because that was intriguing enough to me, and had some deeper conversation, and the time flew by while we were talking. And at the time I was going through the first time ever of my husband going out on a date with another woman. And that was shockingly terrifying to me. Doesn't matter how much I prepared for it. Doesn't matter what I read or how many interviews I listened to. I went into full trauma response and was working through that and in therapy and trying to figure out how to get my nervous system on board with what my brain was on board with. He actually, Derek, gave me some support through that time, which was really kind and helpful. But his flirting style, it's different now because he knows better now. But then his flirting style was so incredibly subtle that I was like, I don't even know if he likes me. I think maybe he's just really a sweet guy and that's all there is to it. Because like there was not a whole lot of what I would consider to be conventional flirting happening in our conversations. It was very cerebral. We did a video chat one morning. We had said we would have a coffee date. And this was the first time I remember having anything close to like the kind of witty banter I was already used to. And I'll explain that. He showed up at his desk with a cup of coffee. And I had found a new coffee place and they had chai. And I was like, oh, I feel like chai this morning. So I got a cup of chai. And I was sitting outside with my chai to-go cup. And I turned on the video and we started talking. And he said, oh, you have your coffee? I said, no, I have chai. And he's like, it's a coffee date. And you brought chai. I'm like, what? Are you serious? Are you serious right now?
And then he
It's
just hung
in
up.
the name. It's in the name of the thing.
So he was busting my balls over my cup of chai instead of coffee. And I'm like, okay, there might be something here. And and the first thing that I noticed about him in video, because I don't remember if we exchanged any additional pictures other than what was in the community. I don't think we had.
I don't think so.
Because I
Not by that
remember,
point.
yeah, I remember my impression when we got on the video chat. Because the way the light was in his face and everything, he had like sun in his face. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, he has beautiful eyes. I could see it because I couldn't really tell from the picture on the community. It was like this big, right? And I couldn't really see his face all that clearly. And I told him that. I said, you have beautiful eyes. And then he blushed. I'm like, oh, you're even cuter when you blush.
See, this is why.
But bring your coffee. Where's your coffee? You have different styles. I love it.
This is why I didn't send you pictures, because you got to get the video for the whole effect.
Yeah, that's why.
It wasn't premeditated at all. I have no idea. But it worked to my favor, so I'll claim credit.
Yeah, you got to lean into it.
Why not? Why not?
So yeah, so that's my side up to that point. Is there anything, because I've been talking a lot and you haven't really been.
So yeah, let's see. From my perspective, I had joined the community that was for community, but also maybe to meet people, because at least poly people to talk to, non-monogamous people, because I wasn't really getting that a lot here. There was a poly meetup, but once a month is not a whole lot. And I wasn't meeting anybody who I was becoming fast friends with per se. So it was more of a slow burn. And so I had my fingers in a couple of different pots as far as local community goes. And this was a really good compliment to that, your community, your online community. So it's funny because I'm actually not in the NSFW channel. I don't have that on my open on my feed. I haven't for years. So it was only a small window,
Me too.
Small, where I was able to see that picture, and I don't know what emboldened me to respond to it, because I mean I was a little kid in the 70s when there was this huge they called it a women's liberation movement, right? And it was I remember consistent messaging. Some would call it shoving down your throat. Just women are not sex objects. Women are not sex objects. Yeah. And I mean, now, of course, and since then, the discussion has gotten quite a bit more nuanced. But at that point, it was, very much, treat women with respect. They are not sex objects. And so from an early age, it was kind of ingrained in me as far as, because that's why my flirting was so subtle, you might say, because I just don't do that over stuff. It was just drummed out of me, I suppose, or I was conditioned otherwise. And like it or not, that's the way I roll. And I've just kind of learned to lean into that, and that's why I was the way I was. But anyway, why did I go there?
Because we were talking about.
Right, because I was emboldened somehow to respond to an NSFW pick. I don't know how that happened in my brain, but I did. There was a stretch. That's my point, I guess. And
So we were both stretching.
Yeah.
In that moment.
In different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and we started talking the way you described, and yeah, I think that's the only piece I wanted to add.
So
you want to take it from here, or do you want to go for it? You seem ready to go for it.
I'll go. So from my perspective, what was happening was it was a deepening friendship, but again, I was unsure. I hadn't ever had the opportunity. Well, that's not true because it happened many decades ago, like in high school, but I hadn't had the opportunity as an adult with an obvious sexual body of flirting with somebody in a way that didn't like turn to like overt sexual themes. It was just a meeting of the minds. So I was a little bit confused about where I stood with Derek because it was not my norm for how to communicate with a man who was interested in women.
Well, I'm also on a demisexual spectrum.
We both are.
Yeah.
So that's maybe not surprising.
Right. And we had one video date. We had I don't know if you remember this, the Star Trek video date.
I remember that. That was a non-event.
It was a terrible date.
Yeah.
It was a terrible date.
Yeah.
I was tired, and it was the end of the day, and we were watching this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation because that's the brand of nerds that we are. And he wanted to share this specific episode with me, which I probably saw when it aired the first time. I just didn't really remember it. And we were watching it and stopping and to have some discussion about what was happening in the episode at points and everything. And I was like, I feel like I'm in class. This is not fun. So all of that led up to timing of at the same time that I was questioning whether or not he was actually interested in me. My husband and I were going through such emotional turmoil without there were no guardrails on the path. We were just curving all over the place, and it was really dangerous and or felt really dangerous. And we decided to call a pause, we were calling it. And in the pause, we were going to essentially clear the board of anybody we were talking to in that moment, because neither of us had a super deep relationship with anybody at that point in time. So it wasn't cutting off somebody that I had been dating for 2 years or something. And so I felt like Derek was a casualty of that pause and that point in time. And then I did communicate with him. I didn't just ghost him, which probably adds to why we're sitting here recording a podcast together now.
Yeah.
But I just basically, I gave him the Reader's Digest version of here's what's going on, and I apologize, but I have to do this.
Reader's Digest version was a lot. I feel a lot longer. I mean, I was not ghosted by any stretch, but it also felt like I had next to no idea why this happened. Mm. It was personal to you, and
is that the way I put it?
No, I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
It was a personal to you or your situation or whatever it was, but you needed to cut things off. And that was it. So from my perspective, I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. And I tried to keep in mind that piece of advice that says everybody is fighting a battle that you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not a ghosting. So I decided that it cost me nothing to be gracious. And so do what you need to do. I enjoyed our time together. I forget what I said exactly. So.
Yeah. So then, so that was in, I want to say December of 2022. And then,
so this was like roughly a month into your talking, flirting, not sure what you're doing.
Closer to 2 months, it felt like.
Yeah.
And we still hadn't met in person or anything. The closest we got was some video chats. And I still don't know how this happened. I don't remember actually adding this. Maybe it was something where he sent me.
Well, before that. So just to recap where I was at the time, I was on the apps and meeting people. And I had one person that I was in like a 5-week relationship with or so, until we realized, there's actually some serious differences here. Let's cut it. And I was in some, I don't know, I was just in this mode of, meeting people and not working out for whatever reason. And sometime in early 2023, I decided that, hell with these apps. I'm taking Finn's advice and I'm just going in on local communities. And so I kind of doubled down on the local poly group and went to every one of their meetings and did some homebrewing club stuff, did some Wiccan meetups and some contra dancing. And that carried me through 2023. I wasn't really meeting anybody in terms of dating, but I was keeping busy and having fun and putting down some roots in local community and making friends. And I was always the kind who was more successful meeting people to date through friends of friends anyway. So that was kind of a long game strategy for finding relationships eventually.
Yeah. And that was leading up to meeting Courtney, or
that was in 2023.
That was between the time of us stopping communicating.
Yeah.
And us restarting communicating.
Gotcha.
So, and in between that, for his birthday, which is in June of 2023, I don't know why this happened. I still don't know why this happened. It's kind of like the reason, like, why, I don't know why I posted an NSFW picture that he doesn't know why he happened to be there to see it. It's one of those things. It'd make a great rom-com probably. But I had a reminder that popped up on my phone that said, it's Derek's birthday. And I was like, oh, okay. I decided to send him a happy birthday text. And he responded with, thank you very much. And that was the entire conversation. And then at the end of 2023, I was debating whether or not to go to the in-person retreat in Atlanta that was in January of 2024. And my husband had been waffling on whether or not he wanted to come. And he kept, I don't know, I want to go. I don't want to go. I want to go. I was like, you know what? I'm going. I'm going either way, with or without you. I'll get you a ticket if you're coming. If you're not, oh well. And so for me, Derek's going to have something to say about that. Before I get to this point.
So from my perspective, I get this happy birthday wish out of the blue. It's like, oh, okay. So she remembers me and liked things well enough to send me happy birthday. That's good to know. And maybe whatever situation she has, when that is resolved, maybe we can start talking again. Who knows? So in this time, again, I'm all about the slow burn. So this is fine. And I was I was really excited about y'all having an in-person gathering on the East Coast. And and within driving distance of me. That was fantastic. So there was no way I was not going to be there. Come closer to the date, it was December, and I decided to use the holidays as an excuse to reach back out to Courtney, wondering if she was coming. And she said, perhaps, maybe not, I don't know, and probably not. And I decided to send her a message that says, oh, that's too bad, you'll be missed. And the next thing I heard was that she was going. So I'm like, okay. So she wasn't going. She heard that I was going to miss her. And then all of a sudden she's going again. This is pumping up my ego pretty well. I love this. Okay. There are probably things going on that I have no idea about, but I'm just going to make this my story and let it pump up my ego a little bit.
Yeah, it's really cute because when his dad came to visit and I met his dad and his dad's wife earlier this year, he told this story and it was all about how like that text got me to the to the retreat.
That's the way we're going to edit it. That's how it's going to.
That's what happened. I have the power. All right, now tell them what really happened.
So from my perspective, it was really sweet that he reached out, and it was again one of those things where like he got a text from me in the middle of the year that felt like it was out of the blue. I got a text from him that felt like it was out of the blue. And for me at that point in time, I was getting to the really the beginning of seriously disentangling my relationship with my husband and addressing a lot of the places where we were both very codependent. And him waffling about the retreat and me being the people pleaser that I have historically been, waiting for him to decide whether or not I was going to go to the retreat, essentially, right? Because I'll go if you go type of thing. And eventually me saying, you know what, fuck it. Like, I need this. I need this for me. And it has nothing to do with him or with us. Like, I need to go and meet some of these people that I have had some really in-depth conversations with. I had zero intention of going there and like meeting someone to have any kind of romantic or sexual relationship with. I just wanted to meet some people who I had supported and who had supported me and actually like give them a hug in person. That was my goal. And I was just open to whatever experience was going to come my way. By the time the retreat timing rolled around, I had also been dating somebody for several weeks, and we were probably 2 weeks away from having our first overnight together. So I wasn't in the space of coming in like a space of lack. I was coming in a space of, I am flexing my independence muscle and, we'll see what happens. And so I had the most perfect travel experience getting to the retreat. It's so funny because I had air miles. I was able to get to Atlanta. It's a really quick flight from where I was. I had a bag. I decided that I was going to walk through because I love the walking the Atlanta airport. I've done it many times. And I decided I was going to walk and not take a train. So I walked through the airport, and in the amount of time it took me to walk from where I got off the plane to where the baggage carousel, seriously, I walked up to the baggage carousel and my suitcase comes right around the corner. Like I didn't have to wait for my bag. It showed up right on time. I like got a train without having to wait. Like it just all lined up so beautifully. And I was feeling really happy about all of that. And at the retreat, not the very first night, because that was a really small social group, the very first night, but the real official first night of the retreat, which was Friday evening, that's where I met Derek for the first time in person. And I was nervous about meeting him for the first time, not because I was self-conscious in a way of like, oh, what if he doesn't like me? It was more of I feel like I was really kind of a dick. And when I cut things off and it felt really sudden and I didn't particularly want to cut things off necessarily. It wasn't because of like, I didn't see value in the relationship or whatever. It was just, I did it for the sake of my marriage at that point. So I didn't know exactly how meeting me was going to be received by him. Like if it was just going to be like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, and then move on, right? I had connected with somebody else who was at the retreat, and we were just hanging out and having a really fun conversation. And Derek walked up to us, and this person invited Derek to become a member of the Courtney fan club that he had decided that he was he was establishing at that point in time. And Derek said, well, I'm already a member of the Courtney fan club. And I was like, oh, he's a fan.
So from my perspective, I had just come out of...
This is the best interview, by the way. I love this. We just get to sit and listen to you be like, actually, let me tell you what's really...
So I had just gotten out of a 3-hour car ride and at dusk in the rain. So it wasn't entirely pleasant. I don't like driving in the dark in the rain, but it wasn't too bad. It was really, I made good work of it because I had a great opportunity to get my mind right. Because I'd never been to any, well, okay, that's not exactly true. I've been to pagan festivals. They're pretty sex positive. But it was the first kind of gathering of this type that I've been to, the first one in your community for sure. And I kind of felt like it was a bit unfamiliar, like I didn't know what to expect. And I just had a long car ride to kind of sit with myself, listen to some great music, and get my head in a good space, which for me at that time was zero expectations. I'm just going to be open and meet people and be who I am and see what happens. And that was it. I'm not necessarily looking to hook up. I'm not looking to meet people who are new, meet people who I've chatted with already. Whatever comes my way. I'm going to be who I am, and that's it. And that's how I approached the meeting there. And when I met Courtney there in person, I was happy to see her. And so that's how I was.
Yeah. And this was the first time. So there were several things that kind of hit me all at once meeting him in person. He was taller than I thought he was going to be. I don't know why. Maybe because I had only seen a head, on a screen. So I didn't know how to adjust that. I didn't know he had tattoos. I don't think we ever talked about that. I don't remember talking.
Strangely enough.
Yeah, oddly enough. So I saw, tattoos on his arms for the first time. And it was the first time I heard him use one of his signature phrases because I asked him what he was drinking. And it was a beer they had like reformulated. And I said, well, how is it? And he said, it doesn't suck. That's like one of his phrases that he uses. And that's a compliment, believe it or not.
I come from New Jersey. It's a compliment in there.
So the next day, should I tell them about the ice cream?
Go for it.
I mean, you have to now.
I have to.
We can't edit this out. I'm sorry.
Okay. So going back to my initial impressions of Derek, right, where the flirting was really subtle and it was a very cerebral conversation, which I really, really enjoyed because that's the kind of person I am too. I love having really good, deep conversations. But I hadn't really been exposed to any version of Derek that was sexual, really. And so that first evening, People had, been in the pub and it was very loud and close. Eventually people went to another spot, and then there was an ice cream parlor down the street that's everybody kind of filed down to. And there was a line literally out the door for this ice cream parlor in January. Which I'm sure they were super excited about.
Yeah. I was like, I remember standing in that line with you.
Yeah.
With both of you.
Yeah. So he and I didn't necessarily go to the ice cream parlor together. We were just at the ice cream parlor, both of us. And I was standing in line with the person I had been kind of hanging out with all night. And Derek got his ice cream first. Again, this is one of those weird, why did things line up this way in time? But they did. He got his ice cream first, and he was walking back in the opposite direction, right? As I'm going in the line and standing, and he's coming out towards the door. And he paused in front of where I was standing and was eating his ice cream, and it was like a waffle cone ice cream, and he was licking his ice cream so lustily that my companion and I both were like, damn.
I just like ice cream.
He does like ice cream. Yes. But also, damn. That was like the first time I was like, okay. That's interesting. And then the next day was all the workshops and everything at JR&K's house. And there was a playful touch workshop. And before the playful touch workshop, I was, I don't know, socializing, moving around. And I saw Derek, I think maybe for the first time in that space. And he gave me this big hug. Like Derek's a really good hugger, by the way. And he gave me this huge hug that like lifted me off onto my toes just a little bit, which unfortunately I was a little bit terrified that we were going to fall over backwards. So I wasn't fully enjoying the hug because I was scared I was going to break Derek. But it was just like, oh, okay. So I'm getting signals like maybe there's more of an attraction here than I anticipated. And we went to the playful touch workshop, and we both ended up sitting on like this wraparound couch thing. And I know I really wanted to be his partner for that, but like a couple people sat down, like filled up the spaces in between us. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to be his partner for that. And I ended up partnering with somebody else during that. And that was also a lot of shuffling. There was like a lot of, like everybody kind of moved around and stuff. So it wasn't like you were with one person through the entire exercise. And then later that night.
Well, let me jump in.
Okay.
So for the playful touch workshop, that playful platonic touch, whatever it was called, one of the things that I noticed about it, you can't help but notice it, is very consent forward. And this is, I guess, the first workshop that I had that was that really dealt specifically with consent. And this is something that was, it's not new to me. It's just, it wasn't, what was new was how it was presented and the language that was used, because, the early language was women are not sex objects, period. And never mind if they want to be. Nope, shut it down. It was a lot of conflicting messages that I received, because on the one hand, women could be sexual if they wanted to, but they're not sex objects. And on the other hand, the only version of masculine is, pursuing, and then there's this chase, and it was weird. By the time I got around to this part in my life, I was pretty comfortable just, not pursuing, just being kind of on the demisexual end of things, and getting to know somebody first. And then I kind of know where, how to flirt with them, because I've been hanging out with them for a while. And we can kind of open things up from there. So that was maybe a way that I dealt with these conflicting messages and found a way to operate sexually in a safe way. Safe for me, safe for other people.
Mhm.
And so this very consent forward workshop, that was, I jived with that. That was very much in line with the way I already thought about things. And so I just leaned into it. I decided, and this was, again, very, it was very much a product of the attitude that I went into the entire weekend with, which was,
Yeah.
I'm going to take what comes and
Yeah.
be open to what was there. Consent workshop. Okay, I'm all in on the consent this weekend. That's what this is about. I'm going to try this on. And uh, I just leaned into it and I loved it. So this workshop was great. And the people who were around me were the people who were around me. And by the time it was over, didn't connect with Courtney on this one. Okay. Well, there's more later. I'm going to make a point to make sure we do something later and because she's cute.
And luckily, the next workshop was ice cream based. So you,
I was about
Yeah.
you know, if a woman doesn't want to be can a woman want to be an ice cream cone? Because I was definitely jealous of the ice cream cone. Anyway, yeah. So, so we went to go do the workshop that Michelle put on, which was about reconnecting, and essentially it was tools for how to calm your nervous system and how to co-regulate. And I was like, there's no way he's getting away on this one. Like, he's going to be my partner on this one. And
It was a partnered workshop.
yeah, it was a partnered workshop. And I still don't, it's fuzzy how we both managed to like find each other for that workshop. But like, he says that he put himself conveniently close to me.
I did.
Physically.
That was intentional.
It was
Yeah.
an intentional.
well, I think
Hey,
if you're both seeking each other,
Right?
the odds are you're going to find one another.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the problem with demisexuals, right? We're like both like trying to get closer to each other, but neither of us wants to like actually be the one to make the first move. So, yeah, or be quite that aggressive. So we both kind of conveniently like turned to each other like, oh, hey, how funny you're here. I don't have a partner. Do you have a partner? No, let's be partners for this one. It was kind of like that.
I'm familiar with this dance, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if I was quite that coy, but sure.
Okay. Well, the funny thing is, as I'm describing this, and you can't hear this because he's not doing it loud enough, but I can feel, because my arm's against his side, I can feel him laughing.
Yeah.
So we did this workshop together, and one of the there were a lot of exercises where you were touching, right?
It was an intimate workshop.
Exactly. We had our backs to each other. We were feeling each other breathe. And then we're supposed to turn towards each other. And we had this moment where we turned toward each other, and we were meant to each have a hand on each other's hearts to feel heartbeats and look into each other's eyes. It was again, a co-regulation and reconnection workshop. And in that moment in time, I will describe what happened for me, and he can, I'm sure, give his 2 cents. But what happened for me, we were standing and we had our hands on each other's hearts, and we were staring deeply into each other's eyes. And I had one of those, the rest of the room no longer existed kind of moments. And, I could still hear, there were still sensory things coming in, but it didn't, we are now in this bubble of just the two of us. And I felt this sense of, I'm a big believer in exchanges of energies. And I definitely am sensitive to that. And I felt very much like in that moment, we were in the same space energetically. And I felt this sense of recognition. It was like, I know you, in a non-physical, non-cerebral, this is a kindred spirit. I just feel it. When the workshop was over for me, I don't remember what happened. I think I might have enjoyed another cuddle puddle or something. And Derek went upstairs to socialize and play some card games. Do you have some 2 cents to throw in here? Because I think you probably have.
So I had been Wiccan since my teens, so I was not unfamiliar with energy and feeling that and feeling the flow of energy and looking at things that way. And I think that I don't know if the rest of the room went away, but I was definitely conscious of the energy exchange and the feeling of being kindred spirits. I'll say that.
Okay. So as the evening wrapped up and it was like nearly 1:00 in the morning, I don't know when it was that you and I had made a separate plan to like meet the next morning for coffee. I don't know when that happened, but at some point in all of this, we had decided that we were going to meet Sunday morning for coffee
Because she was leaving in the
before I
morning.
left. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for real coffee.
Not chai.
Yeah, this wasn't
Not
a chai
chai.
date. Yeah.
Of course.
And I did have real coffee for the record. So we had made that plan and it was already like 1:00 in the morning. I because I had flown in, I needed a ride back to my hotel. And I remember at one point in the evening thinking about the goodie bags that y'all had passed out and how there were condoms and lube in this goodie bag. And I had a hotel room and I was like, maybe Derek could give me a ride back. And I'm like, no, that's not the way I want this to go. And I ended up getting a ride back with somebody else. But before I left, he kind of followed me to the front door. And because of the workshop that was all about consent or largely about consent, I don't remember this ever happening in my life. And it may have happened and it's blurred out, but certainly not in the last 2 decades. He came to me and I thought he was just coming to give me a hug goodnight. And he asked permission to give me a kiss. And I was like, oh, like blink, blink. Yeah. And I don't remember the kiss. I remember the consent. I don't remember the kiss, which is the funny part. And then
Good consent will do that to you, by the way.
so the memorable part was that he asked me if he could have a kiss.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Right. And then we met for coffee like 6 hours later or whatever it was, 7 hours later. I don't know how I managed to get any sleep that night because that whole thing was so swirly. But we met for coffee the next morning and it was freezing on Sunday.
January.
January.
Yeah.
And it was like there was a cold front that actually, so it was like colder than normal even. I remember walking past a pile of ice, like ice cubes for drinks type of ice on my way to the coffee shop and realizing that had probably been thrown there the night before and it was still completely ice as I walked past. And I'm at this point living in Southwest Florida for 21 years. And I'm like, it's so fucking cold. And we got to the coffee shop and I had my suitcase with me and everything. And he showed up and the door kept opening and like this frigid air would come through the door and hit me in the back. And I'm like, and we're having this conversation and this frigid air keeps coming. And we were sitting on opposite sides of the table from each other. And at one point I was like, okay, it's time to make this move because I'm freezing and this is a really good excuse. And I said, can I come over to your side of the table and use your body heat? Because it's really cold. So I came over to his side of the table. And that was when we first, as we lovingly call it, canoodled, where we were sitting similar to how we're sitting now and occasionally giving each other little kisses. Nothing terribly non-public appropriate. And then it was time for me to go. The timer went off and I needed to get on a train so I could get on a plane. And he walked me out to the train station, which was right outside the coffee shop. And then I remember this kiss because that kiss was like, oh, you didn't tell me you were a good kisser.
This is me telling you now. You listen.
Yeah, you got my attention.
Yeah.
And then I got on a train and I'm like on this train. I had zero intention of creating a romantic relationship at this retreat. And I'm on this train and I'm thinking about everything that has just happened and how amazing he is at kissing. And And there's this thing that I notice as I'm having all these thoughts, which is on the tip of my nose, I could still smell his beard balm. And so I could like smell him as I'm going away on the train. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? How do I handle this situation? I didn't expect to come back with somebody that I'm romantically interested in who lives 3 states away. And I got on a plane and continued to listen to, which one was it? Polywise on the way home. and like continue to turn on this, like, what do I, and I also was a little bit because at this point, things were really, really, really rough in my relationship with my husband. And I was scared to come home and tell him about my experience because it was going to create a whole new can of worms to open and be terrified of. So that's how I left the retreat.
I was actually still at the retreats sort of for, I guess, another day, because there were folks hanging out at the house. It was unstructured, and some folks were hanging out by the hot tub, some folks were hanging out by the coffee bar, whatever. And that's one of the things that I really loved about that retreat was that unstructured time, that just being around these people and in this atmosphere where just everybody is opened up and being themselves with each other and sharing what they want to share. It was, I was still, even the day after that, on Monday morning, I was still meeting people and having fantastic conversations. I was just really blown away by everything. That was fantastic. And I met this really good kisser in person, and that was fantastic. So I'm driving away, figuring out, okay, what am I going to do with this? And actually, it wasn't so much what am I going to do with this? It was more like, all right, I have to go back to my life now. This is what they call the drop, huh? Okay, well, let's see if I can navigate this. And I used my 3-hour drive back to make sure that I was in a good place for my son when I got back home, and he would want to spend some time with me. And it was, I guess, a period of about a week, I think, where the transition from festival to real life kind of was spread out over that week. I mean, of course, you have to go into work and, make the kid food and yada yada, but in between then, it was a lot to process. And Courtney and I were texting each other, and we were continuing this. And one of the things that I did was really early on, like early that week, is I decided to research flights between our cities because I really had to know, okay, is this going to be sustainable? Because I did not want this to just be an online only or majority online relationship. There are people that do that. That's fine. I've tried it. It's not me. I really want there to be some in-person, significant in-person stuff. So I investigated, and I found some deals on some of the cheaper airlines, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's like, oh, we could do quite a few weekends a year. This is great. And I decided, okay, this is something that I can invest some time into, and there's a good potential here for a relationship if that goes that way. So I'm here for it.
But I'm curious though, Courtney, because you've landed back too into a place where you had to separate, that you had to cut this off. And how were you able, or what did that look like for coming back together and being able to continue the communication this time?
So Yeah. So this was different because we had that connection in person. It didn't feel as much as theory as when we were just online or texting or whatever. It was like, oh, this is like I have been in the physical space with him, and I don't know that I can ignore, especially that feeling that I had during the workshop that Michelle put on, where it was so obvious to me that there was this energetic connection. And so we had a conversation. I'm not sure if it was before or after he researched the flights, but we had a conversation about labels and what our relationship might be. And I believe he said something to me about me being a comet. I was like, oh, okay. While I was in that conversation, that's how I took it was, oh, okay. Then in my head, I'm like, I'm not a fucking comet. So
See, I had met somebody who was describing a couple of comets that they had, and there was varying levels of connection.
Mm-hmm.
There was casual, and then there was very committed. But the comet was just referring to how often they would see each other. And we lived a 12-hour drive apart. We're not seeing each other terribly often, probably. So we're playing around with labels, and that's one of the labels that was mentioned.
like how that's very diplomatic. It's one of the labels that was mentioned. So we continue to have these conversations. We talk to each other every day. We started at, I don't know at what point, but fairly early on, we started to kind of have a standing FaceTime date where we would get on, and we would always say that it was going to be like an hour and a half. And then like at midnight, we're both like, yeah, we both need to be grown-ups tomorrow. So we need to stop being teenagers now and get off the phone.
And sometimes we would just talk. Sometimes we would just stare into each other's eyes over
we did
through the screen, which was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. We still do that. So yeah, we just spent all this time, and then he figured out the flight thing, figured out some timing that was going to work, and we decided that we were going to spend a weekend together in St. Pete because that's where he could easily fly to. And it was about a 2-hour drive for me, so that was fine for me as well.
This was kind of we hadn't seen each other since the retreat, and I decided that as far as flights, her flying close to me flying close to her, I decided I was going to make that first investment, so to speak. Right. And St. Pete sounded that was within driving distance for her, so that's what we did.
Yeah. So,
and real quick though, Courtney. So at this point though, this had been a little over a year since you had decided you're going to close down.
Yeah.
You and your husband are now in a place where you're saying, okay, we're sort of opening back up to these other possibilities.
Well, and there was lots of stuff that happened between those 2 points, between me and my husband, and the relationships that we had pursued in between. Because I had gone a little deeper in my relationship with my girlfriend in this year in between. He had the opportunity to, and by he, I mean my husband, had the opportunity to explore a relationship with a man without me being involved at all. And so there were a lot of things that happened in between on that stage. But it was also, like I said, for me, going to the retreat was a big part of like flexing my independence muscle. So making this plan with Derek was kind of along that same line of logic of like, okay, well, this is a relationship that I feel like I want to invest time and energy in, regardless of whether or not my husband has a relationship, because this is a thing that happened quite a bit for us. It's finally starting to ebb, but it was almost like we were dating at each other. a lot. And so it had to be like, well, if you have somebody, then I have to have somebody. And it's like, and that's so unrealistic and unsustainable over time, because you don't know when you're going to meet somebody who you click with in a way that's meaningful.
Yeah.
So for me, choosing to schedule this time with Derek over a weekend to see, like, is this really what I think it is? And all of that was a part of that same flexing of that independence and disentangling some of the codependencies. When we were planning that weekend, we both set up a countdown clock on our phones that we would check, and we'd check in and say, hey, it's only like 4 weeks and 23 hours till we are going to meet in St. Pete. We are still often such teenagers.
So a little bit of NRE, just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit. And partway through that time, the sweetest thing. So this isn't the same thing as like the consent for the kiss. We had a conversation. I don't know exactly what the date was. I know it was right after President's Day. We were having a conversation, and we had often joked about how we behaved like teenagers, and the NRE that we were feeling was very much in that, like, very sweet, like, full on leaning into it, not jaded at all, like open-hearted. So we had often joked about being like teenagers. And then we hadn't even been together in the same room for multiple weeks at this point. And he said, would you be my girlfriend? I was like, oh my God, he asked me out. Yeah, so it was so cute. It was so cute that he asked me to be his girlfriend. I just loved it. And that's one of the things that is so defining, actually, in our relationship. Was incredibly sentimental and romantic, which I really love about us.
That's definitely a thing that we have where we overlap, is that kind of cheesy romantic
We're sappy
stuff.
Which is perfect if you're deep in the new relationship energy. There's nothing better than leaning into the
Right?
hardcore Hallmark movie-esque.
Oh, for sure.
That's what it's all about. Yep.
Yeah. So, but also in between that and the St. Pete trip, we had to have, the conversation, right? Sexual health and all that kind of stuff. And this is where I think we had an opportunity to go very deep and very vulnerable very quickly. And not just like the typical conversation about like physical sexual health, which is usually the conversation you have, like, okay, what about barriers? What about testing? That all of that stuff. And we did have that conversation, and we did both take care of that as well. But the other thing that came up, and I have to give Derek credit for being brave enough to bring this up in the first place, was more like mental sexual health. And I don't know that I ever had a conversation with somebody in advance about that. It was usually something like, oh, like something came up and now we have to talk about this traumatic experience that I had in my past, or experiences that I had in my past, and now we have to talk about it. We ended up having a conversation about that in advance. And you're about to say something. Go ahead.
So is this where I jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Perfectly choreographed.
I'll just drink right now.
Yeah. So I'm not sure where to start on this one. The realization that I wanted to talk to Courtney about ahead of time was many years in the making. So this is, I guess, where I say trigger warning, mention of sexual abuse as a child. When I was, I guess, around kindergarten age, I was sexually abused by an older kid in the neighborhood. Contrary to whatever statistics, it was not a family member. It was nobody that we knew. But I had my mom worked, and there was a babysitter, single mom of a younger kid, in the apartment across the parking lot, like in another building in that complex. And this was this was the 70s, and in the 70s and 80s, parents and babysitters and kids were kicked outside. Go play outside. You don't get enough time outside. Go outside. And so she did that, and outside became very not safe for me. So this other kid would somehow she would find me, and she knew how to get into, I don't know, the basement of one of these buildings, and that was I don't know what to say about that. So she threatened that if I told anybody about it, that she would kill me, and she always found me. So I believed her,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't tell anybody about that for years and years. And fast forward, I somehow made the connection. This was in my 40s. Somehow I made the connection that maybe these traumatic experiences, this sexual abuse that happened on multiple occasions, maybe this has something to do with me not enjoying receiving oral sex. Which, when I say that, it's like, of course that's a major, how could it not play into that? Come on. Yeah, it just happens to be my preference now. No, it was the fucking trauma. And it, I don't know, buried it or didn't want to think about it or whatever. But over the course of my life, I slowly realized that's kind of, that had to be the seed. And I didn't know what to do about it, really. At some point, therapy, and at some point, someone who's experienced in sexual trauma and healing and stuff like that. But I had not gotten to that point yet. But I had this realization,
Mm-hmm.
and I decided that I was going to get out in front of it, in a sense, and bring this up. I didn't bring up the whole trauma thing, I think, not at first. I just decided to say, this is something that is part of my baggage. I don't really get too jazzed about receiving oral sex. So if that's something that we do, and it's not doing it for me, it's really not you. It really is me, because that's just one of the things about me, and that's something that I think that you should know, because I want to have a great time this weekend, and let's defuse these landmines early on. And this was a landmine that I had relatively recently, within the previous couple of years, become aware of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have, I also had a history of sexual abuse and trauma from childhood that went on for years, and it was a family member. And for me, it was also the family member was somebody who was only a couple years older than me. And I was an only child growing up. And this particular person was somebody who my dad kind of felt like was the son he never had. So there was all kinds of pressure to not tell or anything like that. I never told anybody about it until I was like 20. And it went on for, I don't know, 12 years, I guess, off and on. So when he told this to me, he actually did mention that it was some childhood trauma. He didn't, I don't remember how much in detail, but I know you told me some details.
Okay.
And I received that information in a way that was, I think, calm and supportive because been there, done that.
Yeah.
And in that moment in time, and this is going to sound like a massive ego trip, but it actually wasn't. That's not how it came to me. But he told me this, and I just had this like epiphany when he told me this. I'm like, I am going to help heal that. And it sounds like it's an ego thing, but it's not. It wasn't about me being like, well, you never had one from me. It wasn't that. It was more like I just knew somehow that I was going to be a catalyst for healing in that.
Yeah, I will just say what I hear in that isn't you're so good at it that you'll change his mind, but you can show up with the compassion, the empathy, and be there in it as this heals in
for
whatever
sure.
way.
And then that comes back into that consent culture type of thing too, where like when we did finally have an opportunity to be in the same room together with our clothes off, right? I was already aware of things that might be unsettling for him. And that was really helpful because I didn't feel like I needed to push in any way or that I needed to be performative or anything like that. Like that's like, we're just going to show up as the
flawed humans.
Scarred humans, exactly, that we are. And see where, our scars align. And not the stars, but scars. So, and it was really like it was also very, in a way, for me. I'm going to use the word flattering, that we had built up enough closeness, vulnerability, intimacy that he was able to share that information with me in the way that he did and in the timing that he did. Because he could have easily chosen to just like not say anything about it and just be like, hey, I'm not in the mood for that. And like never told me. He could have chosen that route. But instead he chose to trust me with this information and with this very vulnerable part of him. And that was just that much more for me, like miracle grow for the relationship.
We had already been, this was 8 weeks after the retreat that we were meeting in St. Pete, and we were already growing this relationship.
I was already in love with him.
Yeah.
I totally was.
I was as well, but I was waiting until we were in person to actually say it.
Yeah.
But we both knew it.
Yeah.
This is,
yeah. So, when we got together in St. Pete, we had some specific plans for some things that we were going to do. He wanted to take me contra dancing. I'd never been contra dancing before, but I've done a lot of ballroom dance and I love to dance. So when he brought up, hey, how do you feel about going dancing? I'm like, come on, he's a good kisser and he's going to take me dancing. Like, this is amazing. So I was all about it. And we did, we had a really great time contra dancing. And if you don't know what that is, Google it. You'll find lots of videos. And when we first met up, because of the timing of his flight, we had like hours before we could check into the Airbnb, which was a little bit torture. But we had to, we're going to go do some more things that are with our clothing on and in public for a while before we get to this point, even though that tension had been building for 2 months plus a year or whatever it was.
that fantastic kiss in the airport didn't help either.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he got off the plane, right? And I knew he didn't have any. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to figure out where he was going to get off the plane. Because in Tampa, St. Pete, the airport's a little bit weird. You like get off a plane and then you get on a tram to the place where you meet your people. So it's not like even a super obvious, like these are the gates. And when I asked somebody like, where would my boyfriend be getting off a plane? And they're like, oh, you probably meet him down in baggage. I'm like, he doesn't have any baggage. He's just bringing carry-on. I'm like, where am I going to find him? But I did. I obviously, we figured it out. He came out and And he walked up to me, and again, it was that moment, like, when you're in a new relationship and when you're in a long distance relationship, you never know, like, what it's going to be like when you're in the same room again. And so it was like, is it going to be amazing? Is it going to be super awkward? Don't know. And he walked up to me, and I don't know if you still had your backpack on or you set your backpack down. Who knows? But he gave me this amazing deep kiss that was like, again, like nobody else in the world existed in that moment. And then he pulled away and he hands me this bouquet of daffodils. And I was like, where did those come from? It was like a magician. They like appeared out of nowhere. And he's like, I had them in my hand the whole time. I'm like, I didn't notice the daffodils until he handed them to me, because I was so like,
So this was March, and
and daffodils are also my birth flower because I'm a March baby. So yeah,
and they were growing out in my yard. So
which is even sweeter, right? He didn't go buy a bouquet. He went out and he cut daffodils for me from his yard.
In the dark at about 3 a.m, I cut daffodils, and because that's when I left for the airport, and put them in like a damp paper towel or something, and so that they wouldn't die, and held them carefully throughout the plane. And I just silly romantic shit, right?
You're setting the bar high. The listeners' eyes have rolled many times, but yeah.
Oh, maybe that's the trigger warning you need to put in front of this episode. Courtney and Derek are so ridiculously sweet. If you can't handle it, make sure you have your insulin close. So we had this lovely time together before we could check into the Airbnb. So we went to a botanical garden, and we were walking through the botanical garden, and that was the first time we danced, was in the botanical garden. And this is now a thing. Like he'll just randomly spin me in weird, like we'll be in the grocery store or something, and he'll happen to have my hand, and he'll twirl me just randomly. We dance in public in weird places. That's the first time. And we heard this noise the whole time we were in the botanical. It sounded like angry bees. Like, what the hell is that? Couldn't figure it out. And then I took him to the pier in St. Pete just to go for a walk down the pier, because it's a pretty spot.
It was like cicadas, but more aggressive.
Yeah, super aggressive. And it turned out there was like a Formula One race. Was it Formula One? I don't know. There was a race that they had shut down parts of downtown St. Pete to have and it happens every year apparently. And I was just completely oblivious to it when we planned this. And so we went for a walk down the pier and avoided the massive stuff that was happening where the race was happening. And as we paused on the pier, and I don't know if the intention was that we were going to give each other a kiss, but we were very close.
Everything
physically.
was unspoken.
Yeah. There was no outward communication.
Yeah. We stepped off to the side of the pier, and so we wouldn't be like blocking people. And we were facing each other and holding hands. And we got very close, but didn't kiss. And we just kind of held it there. And it was electric. And I mean, that's enough for a fantastic time together. But this went deeper. And it was one of those experiences where like nothing else existed. The angry bees even went away. And I could feel that she was physically close, but more than that, I felt the energy. And I saw colors, and our eyes were closed, and we were just, it seemed like we were right on the verge of a kiss, and that electricity was just fueling this experience, but it wasn't tense. It was intense, but it wasn't like, oh my God, when are we going to kiss? There was no impatience at all.
Yeah, there was no pressure in it.
Yeah.
but it was like we dove into this like crazy. We were stone sober, by the way. I should say that.
Yeah.
But it was like we went around a mushroom trip or something, and we were just completely like nothing else was going on around us. We had this amazing connect. What he saw colors, I saw like golden sparkles everywhere. Not like, my eyes were closed. It wasn't like I was seeing this halo around him or anything. It's all like Wayne's World or something, right? Like Dreamweaver. It wasn't like that exactly. It was like we were in this whole different universe together for a minute.
Mhm.
Yeah, we were physically next to each
Don't
other.
know how long we were there.
And this other dimension opened up, and that's where consciousness.
Yeah, it was crazy.
went.
And but we were standing completely still. We were not kissing. We were like inches away from each other's face and in this weird space. And it was so intense. And it was almost like we joked about it later that this was like the first time we had sex. That moment was actually the first time we had sex because we both felt a climactic experience
Mhm.
to the point where when we both kind of like came back to earth, we were like, we need to go sit down. Like we need to ground somehow. And we
Gotta ground
walked
the energy.
further down the pier. And I have been on this pier before, but I don't think I ever went out this far on this pier. This pier actually has like a park on the end of it with like grass and trees. And I was like,
That's exactly what we needed.
we needed exactly that. It was like a room of requirement. We went and there it was. And we took off our shoes and we like laid down on this grass and just like, and looked at each other and we were just both like, what the fuck was that?
I remember having the presence of mind as we walked toward the grass to make sure, okay, we're still not completely down to earth yet. Let's make sure we don't walk off the pier or something. Or into a tree or something stupid. Let's not trip. Let's just get there.
Stick the dismount. You got to stick the dismount.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So had enough connection to realize, okay, let's make sure this is not ruined by a physical stupidity. Yeah.
Yeah. What a beautiful experience to have.
It really was. It was unlike anything else I had really experienced before. And I've had like tantric experiences and intentional tantric experiences and stuff like that. And those have also been really amazing and beautiful and intense. This was like a whole different thing. It was yeah, it's crazy. And it's so hard to describe that to somebody who's maybe closed off to the idea of having an energy exchange with another human. But it's just like, yeah, that sounds really woo-woo. Can I get the number of your dealer? You know, like it's but it was amazing. And we had a beautiful weekend together and we did have some opportunity for healing. Sorry, I just all of a sudden got Marvin Gaye in my head. It's like sexual healing.
We eventually did get to the Airbnb.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We managed to close the door before our clothes fell off.
Yeah.
And yeah. And we really had, it was like having this little honeymoon bubble type of thing for just the two of us for that week. And it wasn't a super long weekend, but it felt like it was 2 weeks long. It was 48 hours ish. A little bit more than that.
It was more than that. Yeah, but not much.
52 hours maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't very long, but it was just like, it just broke apart many paradigms and it was amazing.
One thing that was key for me going into that weekend was that I had recently finished Emily Nagoski's book, Come Together.
Yes.
And
I heard her on your show, I think.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
No, not yet. Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of Multiamory.
Yeah.
Apologize.
It's all good.
And we were, I had that fresh in my mind about,
We had both read that book.
emotional or
independent of each
sexual
other.
floor plan, and centering each other's pleasure rather than having like orgasm as the goal or either yours or the other person's, but centering each person's pleasure as the experience. And again, this is the a carryover from the retreat, but I was just, okay, I'm going to try this on, and this is where we're going with this, and I'm going to adopt this mode of operating, and that was really,
It went well. It
it was
went
amazing.
well.
It went so well. I can't believe it was only 3 days, less than 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 9 on Saturday to 4 o'clock on Monday. And I remember too having this, and again, NRE for sure. But I also remember like driving away from the airport and feeling like I forgot, like I left a limb behind when he left. And it was, yeah, I was ugly crying a little bit as I drove away from the airport.
And fast forward a year, everything's gone really well, right?
Oh yeah, of
Everything's
course,
been
totally
super
smooth.
simple.
It's been amazing. That's part 2. No, when I came back from that, here's the funny thing. My daughter, who's now 19, at the time was 18. And I had been sort of, for lack of a better word, stuck where I was geographically because of an agreement that I made with her dad so that we could both have a relationship with her. And he moved to Jacksonville, and she announced like maybe the week before St. Pete that she was going to move to Jacksonville. And then St. Pete happened, and I came back, and I'm like, all right, we're putting the house on the market. It's time. She's out. And now I can finally go to the mountains, and my husband and I had been scouting places in the mountains before. And then, so our next get together for Derek and I was going to be in April. So it was like 6 weeks between seeing each other. And I was, the plan became that I was going to come up here, and then my husband and son were going to drive up and meet us, and we were going to scout for whether or not we wanted to buy property here or whatever. And in between that, like seriously, I talked to a realtor, and she gave me a list of things. Here are the things that you need to do to have your house ready for the market. I did those things in like 3 weeks because I was really motivated. And then the house went on the market. I bought a one-way ticket to Asheville. And then my husband and son drove up, and then they got to meet Derek and Derek's co-parent and Derek's son. And we really loved the area on our drive back. So we were up for a week. I flew up on a Friday, spent Friday through Monday with Derek. And then my husband and my son showed up, and we spent some time scouting. We spent some time socializing. We went hiking and camping the final weekend of that week. Right before all of this happened, my husband's employment ended abruptly. And on the ride home, this was like Monday, we were riding home. I was in the passenger seat, and I decided to set up another countdown. And I set it for June 1st of 2024 that I was going to count down to when I lived in Nashville. And an hour later, after I set this countdown timer, we got a phone call from the realtor saying that we had a cash offer.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So from retreat to me moving, tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of my driving into Asheville. And like, now I live here. So it was less than 6 months, just shy of 6 months between the retreat and, I'm sorry, I can't do the comet thing. I'm just going to have to move to Asheville.
Less than 5 minutes. Yeah.
Quick note from your hosts of the show. One of the things that we often advise people under the influence of NRE is to not make large decisions like selling homes, moving, quitting jobs. So all of the things you two are doing, your hosts do not advise these decisions, but we absolutely love.
I did not coerce her.
No, he did not.
No.
Or even encourage any of this. In fact, I made it a point to say, you realize this is one of those things that Finn has told us not to do. Well, I mean,
right? No. Don't sign anything in under a year, right? Don't sign anything. But here's the thing, too. My husband and I had been thinking about moving to the mountains and scouting moving to the mountains since 2020. So it wasn't like that was really, it's just that we honed in very quickly on the place and everything all of a sudden, boom, 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 fell into place. And
Asheville is awesome.
And Asheville is amazing. So even if Derek and I didn't work out for whatever reason, Asheville is amazing. So, and this is what I think he also told himself and told me out loud to like soothe any feelings of guilt that he had. He's like, well, even if we don't work out, Asheville's great. Asheville's great.
I love it. And I will say too, right? This is one of those, your mileage may vary, right?
Yeah.
These are just,
right.
everybody, you're adults. You do what's best for you.
For sure. Yeah.
So you've been living together now, well, not together, but you've been living in the same city for a year. You've been together 16 months or something like that. And so how has it been now being in the same? Also, by the way, I've already decided as you've been talking, the title of this episode is Courtney and Derek, a love story. So I've already got it. I've already got it written. So so you're living together in the same city now for a year. How has this year been? No major hurricanes or natural disasters, of course.
This could be another 3 more episodes.
Yeah.
No metaphorical ones anyway.
Right.
Well, but here's the thing. I think, from my perspective, things between you and I have been fantastic.
This is true.
And there no very minor times of disagreement or emotional dysregulation. Things have been almost disturbingly fantastic with you.
Yeah.
Fit right into the love
other
story.
parts of our lives. However, there's been some need to navigate things.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a different phrase for what's gone on in the rest of our lives. Shitstorm. Pretty much. There's been quite a few. So, there's been a lot. There's been a lot to navigate between also and seriously, this could be another hour. But there's been a lot that's gone into like, what is it like to have these two families that commingle in a way? And what is it like to have this relationship be as obviously electric as it is and maintain some form of relationship with my husband? And what does that look like? And what has it been like to be able to see each other on a regular basis and still want to continue to see each other? It's not like
that's not a guarantee.
Yeah, for sure. But we've had a standing like overnight date on Tuesday nights since I got here. There have been a few nights we weren't able to do it. Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve were really inconvenient in 2024. They were both on Tuesday nights. So we had to miss each other quite a bit during the holidays.
Well, we've been doing it 2 overnights a week for most weeks.
This is true. Yeah. That is true.
Well, I'm wondering, you kind of said this could be another hour. Maybe this is part 2. And actually, that makes really good sense. Like we got the coming together, the get you both to the same city. And maybe it does make sense to come back and tell the second part of this soon. How does that feel to you?
A lot of relational things and also a natural disaster.
Yeah,
that's a story. Yeah, maybe,
that's a whole story right there.
maybe this is a good place to cut it.
leave the people wanting more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, maybe so it's not just so abrupt. Are there maybe final thoughts or anything either of you wanted to share before we put the to be continued sign up and annoy everybody?
Mm. Well, a great way to vet a potential lover is to watch them eat ice cream. I'll just say that.
Noted. I can attest. Ice cream dates are
Ice creams are
fantastic
great.
and
Yeah,
delicious.
yes, exactly. That's great.
Well, since moving to Asheville, I already had some equipment to do this with, but since moving to Asheville, because I do know how much Derek loves ice cream, I've gotten really good at making homemade ice cream.
We should get together, Courtney,
Yes.
and do some ice cream planning, because this has been a hobby of mine recently too. So
It has
Nice.
been.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
not trying to move
I
in
mean-
on her, Derek. Don't worry. I'm
No.
in it for the ice cream part.
Hey, non-monogamy, baby.
That's right.
Not that I could blame you, obviously.
Her ice cream is wonderful. More people than me should enjoy it.
Euphemistically, of course, right? Courtney's biting her
No,
tongue.
her actual ice
I
cream.
know.
Don't mind me. I know that. Okay, so I didn't actually clearly identify myself at the beginning of the interview. I am a 50-year-old cis white woman on the surface, but really I actually identify as a 13-year-old boy. So, like you can't see anything around me without me going, that's what she said. So
Well, I will. Since we're kind of at the end, I will say there was a moment, Derek. I think you missed it early on. You made the comment about having your fingers in multiple pots, and
I didn't miss it.
Okay, Courtney was losing her shit, and it was hilarious.
No, I just let it go.
I caught that.
It was a riot. I was like, wow.
These straight lines just come out of my mouth, and after they do, I realize, oh, that's gonna hit her brain in this way. Okay, I'm just gonna let it hit her brain and keep going.
I'll just giggle to myself in the corner.
Yeah, it was incredible to watch from over here. So,
Is there anything else today before we pause and come back together?
Not that I can think of. I mean, it occurs to me, I wish I had something maybe prepared and profound to say about the sexual mental health thing.
I think we said it.
But yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's, I'm just happy that I was in a spot where I kind of knew that about myself and felt comfortable and safe to talk about it up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was profound, and I think it was
agree.
brilliant in that, one of the cheeky ways that we've talked about relationships at times is sort of like, we're going to see how your traumas mesh with my traumas. And I think knowing that is a reality sometimes, and often,
Not even sometimes, most of the time.
often, right, that when we're coming into these spaces, to be able to talk about these things, like you said, ahead of time, rather than waiting until after, and, one or both people are in their heads and it's going south and everybody's spiraling, to, like, you can cut that off, right? You can. And it's not necessarily easy to have those conversations when you're getting to know somebody. But I love that you shared that you did, and just how fantastic it really went for the two of you.
I think it's, it can be tough to figure out how to do it and not just vomit this overshare trauma dumping all over the other person, but figuring out a way to share that, but in a way that doesn't take over everything else.
Yeah.
That becomes your identity.
Yeah.
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 And I guess we got it right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think maybe the other takeaway from this segment could be also like, don't be afraid to lean on community and share some of those vulnerable spaces with people, even though they feel like they might be strangers, because you really never know when you show that
who is going to also identify with that and find some comfort in whatever it is that you're sharing, that you've made it through and you're on the other side of it and you're still alive and you're still growing and all of that. It's very, it can be incredibly comforting in ways that you might not even realize to somebody else who gets to hear that.
One of the best parts about your community.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you both for everything today. This was such a beautiful conversation, and I'm excited to come back and do it again.
Yeah. Part 1 of the trilogy.
Oh, good Lord, no.
You two didn't know what you were signing up for.
That's right.
Wow.
Be careful when you email us.
All right.
I'm just kidding. Bring it on.
Bring it on. Well, we loved chatting today. Thank you both. Thank you both for sharing everything and for being a part of our community and just for being amazing. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Courtney and Derek, for everything that you shared today. We're so excited to get this story out there. And
part 1 of the story.
Part 1 of this story, yes. And we just so loved talking to both of you.
Yes, thank you from my side as well. Absolutely delightful to hear you two share this story. A lot of stuff we had no idea. We just host this community and people get together and we're like, oh, well, they got together. We don't get to know all the inner workings. So thank you for sharing.
It's been so wonderful to have you both be community members and friends over the last several years.
Yes, and if you would like to join people like Courtney and Derek in our community, you can find out more information under the community tab. And a reminder, our next in-person retreat is coming up October 3rd to the 5th out here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Please come join us. Maybe you'll have your own Courtney and Derek love story.
Yes, maybe. You never know.
You never know.
And next week,
we've got another interview.
Surprise, surprise.
We're talking to Isla. It is a fantastic conversation. Isla is one of the co-creators of the Non-Monogamy card game.
Yes.
So we'll see you next week. Hope you have a great rest of your week and weekend ahead.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.